This baby's belly kept growing nonstop, and then the doctors delivered alarming news to her parents. Steve Tenny, a U.S. Army veteran with 18 years of service in the Keene Police Department, hadn't visited a doctor in over a decade. Despite the occasional need for a stitch, he had never faced a serious illness or spent a night in the hospital. At 40 years old, Tenny was the picture of health, staying fit, and even helping to coach middle school football at his alma mater, Monadnock Regional High. But on September 8, after a week of extensive physical and psychological testing that confirmed his perfect health, surgeons at Leahy Hospital and Medical Center in Burlington, Massachusetts, removed a portion of his fully functioning liver. They carefully removed about 20% of the organ, reimplanted the remaining part, and closed him up. "I woke up that afternoon feeling like I'd been hit by a truck," Tenny recalled earlier this week. His liver donation ended up saving the life of a 4-month-old girl he had never met. Sarah Street James of Bourne, Massachusetts on Cape Cod had a perfectly normal pregnancy. Sloan was born in April, seemingly healthy, the second child of Sarah and Chris Street James, who also have a 2.5-year-old son, Carter. She's an occupational therapist, and he works in the department for keyless commuter services. When Sloan reached 2 months old, her parents noticed she was becoming increasingly jaundiced, and she developed what they described as a Buddha belly. Although she was eating fine and hitting her developmental milestones, her parents grew worried. "Chris and I were like, something's just not right," Street James said. Instead of going to their local pediatrician, they took Sloan to Boston Children's Hospital for her regular 4-month checkup. They wanted doctors there to tell them that everything was fine. It was August 8. Doctors took one look at Sloan, and alarm bells went off. They eventually diagnosed her with biliary atresia, a liver disease in which one or more bile ducts are abnormally narrow, blocked, or absent. Caught early in infants, it's treatable without surgery. But Sloan's condition was advanced and would rapidly reach stage 4. Only a liver transplant would save her life. "Here we are thinking we're bringing her in for peace of mind, and instead, it was devastating," Street James said. Her jaundice wasn't going away, and at the same time, she developed a bigger belly. "You have a glimmer of the worst thing, but then you say it's not going to be the worst thing." They were put on a cadaver donor waiting list, but the disease kept progressing. Sloan went home for 6 days at the end of August, but had to be rushed back to Children's Hospital. As Labor Day weekend approached, it became apparent that they would need a living donor to save her life, an option used only about 10% of the time. "We knew we weren't going home again after those 6 days," Street James said. She was deteriorating rapidly. Living donor protocol is strict. The donor has to be a family member or an acquaintance, and it must be of their own free will. It requires a psychological exam in addition to the physical match. There are a lot of risks involved, a lot of ethical things that go into it, Street James said. Tenny knew the Street James family through his brother, Jake Tenny, who lives in Bourne near the Cape Cod Canal and is close friends with the Street James couple. Although Steve Tenny and his wife, Aubrey, had met Chris and Sarah Street James at a few outings, they didn't know each other well. As word spread among family and friends, including through a GoFundMe page about Sloan's dire condition and the need to find a donor, Tenny joined the effort. Unlike the Street James family members, Tenny's blood type matched Sloan's. That was merely the first baby step in a long process. Adult donors go through Leahy Hospital in Burlington, Massachusetts, and Tenny qualified to fill out an online survey. After assessing Tenny's answers, Leahy called him back. They were interested. Tenny and his wife talked it over, knowing it would mean taking time off from the Keene Police Department, where he is a lieutenant. He had accumulated the time, having never taken a sick day. Furthermore, he had recently moved to days in more of an administrative capacity. "Fortunately, here I was in a good position," he said. "My wife and I talked, and it was really a no-brainer. It's something you have to do as a human being. It's a baby. You have to help a baby if the baby's in need." Tenny went to Cheshire Medical Center for initial testing before being called to Burlington for the more intensive screening program. Only one donor candidate is assessed at a time due to the required breadth of the testing. Because of Sloan's condition, what's normally a weeks-long process was fast-tracked into 7 days. Tenny reported to Leahy on September 1, where that week he underwent numerous procedures such as a CT scan, MRI, and liver biopsy. He estimates doctors took hundreds of vials of blood. They took three-dimensional images of his liver as part of the transplant surgery, which involved collaborating with a lab in Germany. Tenny's vessels and veins had to be compatible with Sloane's. The number of vessels and veins has to match. If I have too many, it's almost too much to be able to close them off, Tenny said. He was most nervous the first night of his workup. He was inundated with information, and his head was spinning. At first, I was nervous but excited. It got better as the days ticked off, and it became apparent I was a match. Meanwhile, Sloane was deteriorating. Her family prayed that she would remain stable enough to have surgery. Sending her into that was like an out-of-body experience because you never want to hand your child over to an anesthesiologist not knowing the outcome, Street James said. On the day of the surgery, September 8, surgical teams assembled in Burlington and Boston. The timing had to be in sync, with Sloane's new liver arriving as the team took the old one out. Tenny has photos of his healthy liver on his cell phone. Street James said Sloane's liver was shriveled, black, and lifeless. Both surgeries were successful. Her liver will grow as she grows, and the lost section of Tenny's liver will regenerate. Today, almost 2 months later, Sloane remains on an array of medications to fight off organ rejection and infection. She's back to drinking breast milk. She does go to Children's Hospital frequently to have her medications readjusted, but that's expected. Surgeons warned the family that a few bumps are inevitable, although so far hers are nothing they haven't seen before. The survival rate after the first year is 95%. Sloane never stopped smiling, Street James said. The doctors say she'll be able to do anything that a normal little girl would do, but it's been a huge adjustment for our family. As for Tenny, he was in the hospital for 5 days and then stayed near the hospital in a hotel before returning home the following week. Regaining his strength has been a slow process, and he returned to full-time duty last week. He has since visited Sloane on Cape Cod. He's our hero. He's Sloane's hero, Street James said of Tenny. He reached out right when this all started. That just speaks to his character. It reminds us that there are great people in the world. Tenny says he wouldn't change a thing. Having been through it, it's something I would tell people to do if they're in that position. I have no regrets. For what you give, it's a very rewarding process, and what you get back, it was incredible. I'd like to think he was a little proud, of what he had done. He deserves to be, and him holding her, it's just a new bond created for life. What do you think of Steven's action? Let us know in the comment section. I hope you liked this video. Please give it a thumbs up and share it with your loved ones. Also subscribe and press the bell icon to never miss the update from our channel. Thank you.